All right, let's talk about something you've probably heard everywhere, from classrooms to corporate meetings, the growth mindset. It's become this massive buzzword, right? But what does it actually mean? And more importantly, what's the real story behind the science? Well, we're going to unpack all of it right here, right now.
So, to kick things off, let me ask you a question that comes straight from the psychologist who started it all, Carol Dweck. Picture this: you're facing a really tough problem. What's your gut reaction? Is it, ugh, I'm just not smart enough for this? Or is it, I just haven't figured it out yet? That one little word, yet, that's the entire engine behind this whole idea.
So, what are we really talking about? Well, at its heart, a growth mindset is this core belief that your basic qualities, your talents, your intelligence, they aren't just carved in stone. It's the idea that with effort and dedication and a real desire to learn, you can actually develop them. Okay, so let's put these two side by side. With a fixed mindset, you kind of believe your talent is what it is. You've either got it or you don't. So you focus on looking smart, and you might even avoid challenges because you're scared of failing. But with a growth mindset, the belief is that your abilities can be built. So the focus shifts to learning, and challenges, they become opportunities, not something to run away from. So in a nutshell, the popular idea you hear everywhere is pretty straightforward. Embrace challenges, push through setbacks, see criticism as helpful, and get inspired by other people's success. It sounds great, right? A super compelling story. But it's not the whole story. Yeah, because the moment this idea got super popular and hit the mainstream, the academic world started pumping the brakes, pointing out that there's a much more complicated, more nuanced reality behind the buzzword. This quote I found from a discussion online, it just nails the feeling perfectly. While the core idea is really appealing, a lot of people in the scientific community feel like its actual impact has been, well, blown a little out of proportion.
So here's the deal. A big critique is that researchers have had a really tough time consistently getting the same results Dweck's original studies found. And a lot of the studies that do find an effect show that it's actually pretty small. Which makes sense, right? A mindset is just one piece of a huge puzzle that includes things like your background and your environment. Plus, critics say the idea has been way oversimplified into just try harder, something Dweck herself calls a false growth mindset. And this, right here, might be one of the biggest misunderstandings. The term growth mindset is really the pop culture version. The original academic term was mutable self-theory, which is way more accurate. Mutable just means changeable. It allows for the possibility that our skills can not only grow, but they can also decline if we don't use them. It's a much more realistic picture of how skills actually work, because progress isn't always a straight line up. Okay, so if the whole pop psych version is a bit shaky, what now? Do we just throw the whole idea out? Well, no. Let's get back to the hard science. Because no matter what you think about the controversy, the fundamental idea that we can change is totally backed up by biology. And this is where it gets really cool. This concept is called neuroplasticity. It's the brain's absolutely incredible ability to rewire itself by forming new connections. Your brain isn't set in concrete, it's more like clay. It physically changes based on your experiences, your thoughts, and what you learn. And this is how it all connects. A growth mindset isn't some kind of magic spell. It's the psychological environment you create. By believing you can get better and by actually taking on hard things, you are giving your brain the exact fuel it needs to tap into its natural ability to change and build new pathways. Okay, we get it. Our brains can change. Awesome! But how? How do we actually fight back against those fixed mindset thoughts when they show up? Well, it turns out there's a proven, step-by-step method from the world of therapy that can help us do exactly that. It's a technique called cognitive restructuring, and it's a total game changer from cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. Now, this isn't about just thinking positive or pretending problems don't exist. It's about being a detective of your own thoughts, systematically spotting the unhelpful ones and learning to see them more clearly. And it's a pretty straightforward 4-step process. First, you just notice the situation and write down your automatic thoughts and feelings. Second, you look at that list and pick the one thought that's causing the most trouble. Third, and this is the most important part, you challenge that thought. You look at it from different angles. And finally, you create a more balanced, realistic response to practice. So for that big step, step 3, how do you actually challenge the thought? Here's your first tool. Just ask yourself, what is the effect of me believing this? Is this thought actually helping me? If you think, I'll never get this promotion. What does believing that do? It probably just kills your motivation. What if you just decided not to believe it? You might still be disappointed, sure, but you wouldn't be in despair. You'd be free to actually think about a new strategy.
Okay, next up, you gotta put on your detective hat. Ask yourself, what is the cold, hard evidence that supports this negative thought? And then, this is the really hard part, what is the evidence against it? This forces you to get out of your feelings for a second and look at the actual facts, which are almost always less dramatic than our thoughts make them seem. And I love this one. It's kind of wild, right? We are often so much more compassionate and wise when we're helping our friends. So if your friend came to you with this exact same problem, what would you tell them? By framing it that way, you kind of trick your brain into accessing all this wisdom you didn't even know you had.
All right, so we've got the serious therapeutic method down. Now let's have a little fun with it. I've got a couple of creative exercises to make all this stuff feel more real and a lot more tangible in your day-to-day life.
First up, I want you to imagine yourself as a gardener. A gardener gets it. They know growth isn't something that happens overnight. It takes patience, it takes care, it takes consistent work. It's all about creating the right conditions and then trusting the process.
So, with that image in your mind, ask yourself, what seeds, new skills, projects, relationships, what seeds have I planted lately? And maybe more importantly, what am I watering every single day? Where is my attention going? Is it on the things I actually want to see grow, or is it on the weeds of doubt and distraction? Okay, ready for another one? Let's take off the gardening gloves and think like a cartographer, a map maker. A cartographer doesn't just wander out into the world hoping they end up somewhere cool. No, they strategically chart a course from where they are to where they want to be. This is all about being intentional.
And this is a super practical way to do it. You literally work backwards. Start with your huge macro goal. Then break it down. What are the smaller monthly or weekly micro goals you have to hit? And what are the tiny daily nano tasks that will get you there? It takes a massive scary goal and turns it into a simple map you can follow every single day. So look, we're going to leave you with this one last thought. The whole idea of a growth mindset, when you get past the hype and the arguments, it's really just a choice. It's a choice in perspective. It's the difference between seeing yourself as a finished statue or seeing yourself as a living, breathing garden. So the question is, what are you choosing to grow?